So today we're diving into a really interesting white paper that has a pretty radical goal, using technology to finally end the conflict between certain kinds of thinkers and the rigid systems, like healthcare, they have to deal with. And this isn't just some abstract idea, it's a blueprint for a kind of technological vindication. And it really all comes down to this one question, right? Who gets the final say on who you are? Is it the people observing you from the outside? Or is there a deeper biological truth that could finally, set the record straight? That personal stake is exactly what this is all about. And here's the core of the problem, this fundamental clash of realities. So on one side, you've got the individual's world. It's all about making connections, seeing things visually, and building this complete picture by pulling from all sorts of different fields. It's always asking why. But then, on the other side, you've got the system. It's totally linear. It's siloed. It works like a rigid database that just wants to categorize data points. It doesn't care about the why, it only judges the what, the behavior it can see. Now, this clash of realities, it's not just a simple misunderstanding. We're talking about two completely different ways of processing the entire world. So let's actually dig into these opposing styles of thinking. First up, we've got this systems way of thinking, what the paper calls monotropic thinking. The best way to picture it is like an attention tunnel. It's amazing for going super deep on one single topic with incredible focus. But it has a really hard time seeing how that information connects to anything outside of its one narrow lane. It's the logic of hyper-specialization. And then you've got the flip side, multi-monotopic thinking. Now, it's really important to note this is not multitasking. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. It's about having several of those deep attention tunnels at once, and then, and this is the crucial part, building bridges and pathways between them. That's how you start to form a complete, integrated model of how everything fits together. So, what do you think happens when these two ways of thinking smash into each other in a high-stakes setting, like a diagnosis? Well, the result is something the white paper calls a profound betrayal of observation. And this gets to the heart of the pain point here. Observer betrayal. This is what happens when someone's intentional, deliberate strategies, choices they make to be more efficient or independent, are seen by an outsider and get completely twisted, misinterpreted as a sign of a cognitive problem or social disorder. Your smartest moves get used as evidence against you. And this breaks down perfectly how that betrayal actually happens. So, step one, an observer sees the what, structured routines, intense focus. But step two, they completely miss the why. They can't see the internal strategy, that these routines are actually designed to create more freedom and efficiency. And that leads directly to step three, the misinterpretation, where a clever life hack gets slapped with a label like cognitive rigidity. You can see how incredibly frustrating this would be. But here's the thing, the paper doesn't just stop at diagnosing the problem. It proposes a really bold solution, using technology, one that's designed to completely rewrite the rules of this dispute. And the solution is both simple and honestly pretty radical. The idea is to just shift the entire argument. Let's stop arguing about subjective interpretations of behavior, about how things look from the outside, and let's start looking at something that nobody can argue with, objective biological proof. This quote from the paper just nails the ambition here. The goal isn't to win the argument. It's to use technology to make the argument itself biologically futile. Think about that. To make the dispute itself obsolete. So the big question is, how on earth do you do that? Well, the paper lays out a very specific set of tools for this, what it calls the tools of vindication. We're talking about technologies that can actually see what's happening under the hood, way beyond just outward behavior. Okay, so this whole framework basically stands on three pillars of technology. First, you've got fMRI scans to see what the brain is really doing. Second, smartwatches to get real-time data on cognitive efficiency. And third, these really interesting network models to show how intelligence works in a group. So let's start with the brain scans and this fascinating idea called the observer effect. The theory is that just being watched triggers polar opposite reactions in the brain. For someone with an ASD profile, it can be a major stressor. The brain's threat centers, the amygdala, light up. But for the autrovert, as the paper calls them, being observed is like a performance-enhancing drug. It actually lights up the brain's reward circuits. Same situation, totally different biology. All right, now for the second tool, and this is genuinely wild. You'd probably think that a more powerful brain would use more energy, right? That it's working harder. Well, it turns out that's wrong.
Research found that people with superior memory can pull off these incredible recall tasks while actually using less of their gray matter. Their brains are just more efficient. And this is where something as common as a smartwatch becomes the objective proof. It can track things like how fast you solve a problem, or it can measure your biometric stress levels while you're doing it. And suddenly, the whole argument changes. It's no longer about whether a brain works in a typical way, it's about how efficiently it gets the job done. Now, the third tool is actually an idea from physics called the communicating vessels principle. Imagine you have a few bottles that are all connected at the bottom. If you pour water into one, the level balances out across all of them. The paper argues that knowledge and intelligence in a connected group works the same way, which means trying to measure a single person in total isolation is basically futile. It misses the whole picture. So, you take the brain scans, you add the biometric data from the smartwatches, and you combine it with these network models. What do you get when you put it all together? Well, according to this paper, you get the end of the dispute as we know it. And the ultimate goal here is something they call cognitive justice. This is all about redefining cognitive diversity itself. It's moving away from seeing differences as deficits that need to be fixed, and instead seeing them as what they are, a collection of different, highly efficient, and now objectively proven strategies for processing the world. And on a personal level, this whole framework offers something the paper calls autobiographical and schema revenge. What a phrase, right? Autobiographical revenge means the data finally proves that your own lived experience was valid all along. And schema revenge means that the observers, well, they're forced to throw out their incorrect models of you. It's ultimate validation.
And that's really the bottom line. That's the payoff. The point isn't to win the argument. The point is to make the old argument biologically impossible to even have anymore. The whole conversation shifts away from a subjective fight over behavior to an objective conclusion that's based on cold, hard data.
And so that really leaves us with a final massive question for the future, doesn't it? As this kind of technology gets better and more common, we're all going to have to face this. When the data from a brain scan tells one story and a long-held social stigma tells a completely different one, which one do we believe? Which one gets the final say?